suffering can be of our mind's creation. That's understandable. But I have eyes, nose, ear, body, and mind. Why Buddha says there is no eye, ear, nose? Hatha Sutra, likewise, it looks like very contradictory to our average mind, which is conditioned by our thinking mind, and the mind that's conditioned by our sensory experience. So when we go beyond kate, parakate, when you go beyond all these contradictory things start to make sense. All those prana literature, Buddha taught Razir. I heard that these days this city does not exist, this place. At the virtual peak, the peak of the mountain actually looks like the peak of the virtual. He taught this literature for 21 years. The essence is Hatha Sutra. Buddha repeatedly said, one thing and the only thing that I teach is human suffering and the way to end it. So, the first paragraph of the Hatha Sutra is the essence, the point of this scripture. Our second head Dharma master said, when Bodhisattva of great compassion, when practicing deeply prajna paramita, realized that all 5 skandhas, our aggregates, body and mind, were empty, became free from all suffering and distress. That is the essential part. The following part, the form is emptiness, and so on is the elaboration of this passage. Bodhisattva of great compassion, there are lots of, so many diverse images has been painted or carved for this Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. Bodhi means what? Bodhi trail, awakening or enlightenment. Sattva in Sanskrit means the existence or being. So Bodhisattva means the awakened being. In the Mahayana tradition, Bodhisattva is the ideal practitioner who searches for great enlightenment for the benefit of all people. So actually, whether Bodhisattva of great compassion or Manjushri Bodhisattva, Jijo Bodhisattva, there are so many Bodhisattva figures. They are already realized Buddhas. But when they first embark on the spiritual journey, they established a great aspiration. Before all sentient beings enter into nirvana, I would not enter into nirvana. So there are lots of this kind of invisible beings constantly helping us. How could we know? This is what Shakyamuni Buddha taught. Bodhisattva of great compassion, Manjushri Bodhisattva, etc. When Bodhisattva of great compassion, the first passage, when practicing deeply prajna paramita, realize practicing prajna paramita. There are 6 paramita. Paramita is a perfection or crossing over 6 kinds of paramita. You may have seen this one. The first one, dana paramita, generosity. Sila paramita, virtue, morality, like observing the precepts. The third, khanti paramita, perseverance or patience. Vilya paramita, great energy, vigor. Dhyana paramita, meditation or concentration. The last one is a prajna paramita, wisdom. We cannot divide these 6 paramita like odd and even number. It's all related. So Buddha said, one paramita contains the other 5 paramita. But the apex, the culmination of these 6 paramita is prajna paramita. Buddha said, the paramita of wisdom or prajna paramita incorporated the other 5 paramitas by means of practices that are based on all embracing knowledge. Thus, does the paramita of wisdom include the other 5 paramitas? The paramita of wisdom is simply a synonym for the fruition of all 6 paramitas. When he realized that all 5 skandhas, 5 aggregates were empty, realized pashyati, the Sanskrit means see luminously, see clearly. Chinese Heart Sutra translate this word sometimes Guan or Gyensang, illuminate and see. Good translation. Illuminate and see. In English you say, seeing is believing. Seeing is believing. Realize, that's the moment of realization. 5 aggregates, 5 skandhas. It's a very, very important concept in Buddhism. Body and mind, 5 aggregates. Think about that. Where does our stress, agony, suffering originate? For example, my child is sick. I was not promoted. My spouse is not romantic. Or my car was wrecked, etc. There may be many reasons, but the root is one. I, my, me is the root. From one root comes out many branches. The root is always our sense of self, our ego. So there's a Zen saying, when a dog is hit by a stone, the dog chases after the stone. But the lion is hit by a stone, he chases after the person who cast that stone. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva is a lion, not the dog. He illuminates the source instead of seeing the external condition. So he tried to investigate, illuminate what is I, what is my mind, the source of suffering as well as happiness. I is our body and mind. Our mind is very subtle. So Buddha further divided into four layers: sensations, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Let's see the nature or the reality of these five aggregates. This body, first, form. This form come into existence because of our parents and our grandparents and so on. This existence rely on what we eat, what we drink, what we breathe. It cannot exist in or by itself, obvious. What about the second skandha? Sensations. Whether it's a visual sensation, auditory sensation, olfactory sensation. When my eye, for example, come in contact with a dark glass, then visual sensation arises. Wow, he's wearing gray shirt. When my ear come in contact with some sound, Donald Trump was elected as the next president, then each and every person have a different thoughts or emotion. Yeah? So whatever sensation they are, when the sense subject come in contact with the sense object, it arises. It's a dependently arising. The third skandha, perception. For example, when my eye come in contact with some dog, then it's a very skinny yellow dog. That some perceptions can arise. Wow, it's my neighbor Tom's dog. I saw that dog many times in his house. Some perceptions arise. Or when my eye come in contact with this black thing, we recognize it's a microphone. It's a perception. So without sensations, perceptions cannot arise. Based on sensations and perceptions, impulses follow. Some sensation or perception is pleasant or neutral or unpleasant. For example, when I eat chocolate or when I eat rotten egg, it's pleasant or unpleasant. When I see beautiful woman, or when I see some dead body without a head, it can be pleasant or unpleasant. Based on that liking or unliking, our intention, impulses can be different. For example, when I see that skinny, dirty dog, wow, probably Tom loves his dog very much, but I think Tom he's very old. Probably he's very sick. Oh, I should bring this dog to vet. Or, if you dislike Tom, then you can be mad. Huh? Tom should not have adopted the dog. Huh? different impulses arise based on sensations and perceptions. So impulse or volitional, our volition is also conditionally arising, dependently arising. Our intention, that's so-called karma. Our intention is a karma. Many people think in the United States or in Asia, karma, their understanding of the karma is some consequence of our action. But karma literally means some artificial intention. When we pulled by some impulse to something, then the karmic seeds start to be planted and stored in our consciousness. Do you know, in terms of the universal consciousness, when we are seeing the sunset go very deep in meditation, we are the same person. That primal awareness, universal consciousness, it's our common ground. Why we have some different personality? When you hear the news, some people become very happy when Donald Trump became the next president. Some people can be very mad. Why? Different karmic seed that characterize our personality. For example, when I was 11th grade, along with two friends, I hiked in the nearby mountain. The weather changed all of a sudden. It became very, very foggy. We lost our trail. And we happened to arrive in some Buddhist temple. I think it's abandoned for many years. When we opened the door, the creak sound, you can hear the horror movie, that sound. My friends were very scared of that place. But when I entered that place, my reaction was different. Wow, it's just like my home. It's the place I should live. Different karmic seed. The point is, whether it's a form, sensations, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, whatever mental or physical trait they are all dependently arising. They cannot exist in and of itself. It's constantly changing. Well, this looks pretty solid, especially our bone. I read one article. In 1 second, do you know how many red cells are born and die in 1 second? More than 2 million red cells are born and die. It's the same, it appears to become the same liquid. It's constantly changing. Just like a fluorescent light, it's on and off constant. So to our this physical eyes, it always looks on. It's the same with our mental trait, sensations, perceptions. It arises as constant. You may say, no, I was angry yesterday for the whole day. Yeah? But each and every moment, the intensity, the quality of the anger is changing. Just like this sound, this vibration. All 5 skandhas are empty. I do not know why most of the Chinese or English translation of the Heart Sutra missed this part. The Sanskrit is Sva Baba Sunya. It means empty of. Baba Sunya means self-substance. How do you think? Is this a whole empty or full? There are some people, when you all go out after retreat, when you take out all this table and other thing, then can you say this hall is empty? It may be empty of people, but it's full of air. When we say empty or full, empty of what? Full of what is important? So, Sva Baba Sunya means empty of self-substance, empty of inherent existence. Inherent existence. It is devoid of self-abiding nature. 5 skandhas are empty means that. For example, this thing or this gong really looks very solid. It's not like a river or the wind. But when the scientists investigate these things, for example, quantum physicists investigate what is the ultimate particle. Atom is composed. The nucleus is composed of many other particles. An ultimate particle seen as some unchangeable entity does not exist. One astrophysicist wrote, "It is neither eternal nor immutable in its nature. Therefore, it is not an ultimate particle." Erwin Schrödinger, we have heard the Schrödinger equation. He said, "It is better not to view a particle as a permanent entity, but rather as an instantaneous event. Sometimes these events link together to create the illusion of permanent entities." So this thing which appears to be solid is truthfully speaking, it is a kind of some event. There is not that kind of some entity, physical entity. For those scientific things, when you have time, read page 72 and 73. There are a lot of other quotations. Yeah. Think about that. You buy a car, and the next year you change the engine. 2 years later, you change the seat. After 5 years, even all parts is changed. So even not one nut or bolt remain the same. How do you think? How do you view? Is that the same car or different car after 10 years? True?
I don't know. In concept, it's the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 That's true. In concept, yeah. But we tend to think we gradually change each and every part. We think it's still my car, the same car. But unlike your car, in our body and mind, each and every moment it's constantly changing. It's a completely different car. But strange thing is, we think I'm the same person. The English expression, my body or my mind, what does that mean? It means our belief. There is some invisible entity, whether it is a soul or Atman or spirit, whatever it is, where your body and the mind belong to. We have that tenacious belief. But 5 aggregates are empty means that is just a sheer illusion. It's your belief. It's not the reality. I sometimes tell this thing. Let me ask you, in order to know which is a concept, which is a reality, if I ask you, are vegetables, we ate vegetables, does the vegetables exist? Vegetables exist? Or animals exist in this world? But think about that. What really exists is carrots, radish, green onion, and so on. Vegetable is a name of some category. If I ask to you, does a color, red, blue, black, does a color exist? You can say, yeah, brown color, blue color, black. Likewise, what really exists is yellow, orange, indigo, etc. Color is a name of some category. Likewise, mind is just a name. What really exists is sensations, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Consciousness is also a name. It's just a concept. What really exists is visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, tactile consciousness, mental consciousness, etc. As we just learned, whether it's a sensation, perception, impulses, consciousness, it arises constantly. It exists like a river or like a wind. It's constantly dependently arising and ceasing. So, in the absolute sense, they don't exist. They do not truthfully exist. That's what 5 aggregates are empty mean. One Indian master used this analogy. He would like to know, what is the reality of onion? What is the nature of onion? So he bought one onion, and he peeled off layer by layer, expecting eventually, at the end, he will discover the true nature of onion, onionness. But when he peeled off all the layer one by one, eventually what's left? Nothing's there. Onion is just the aggregates of all layers. We are just the aggregates of our body and mind. So there is behind our experience, there is nobody, not some invisible entity. Behind our experience, there is no master or core being behind all this changing experience. Buddha described this as actions without actor, doings without a doer. So that emptiness part, you can read the analogy of a chariot. It's a very important and very meaningful thing. Yeah. I have to finish my talk within 5 minutes. Yeah. Let me quote just one last passage. Form is simply a name. Likewise, sensation, perception, impulses, and consciousness are simply names. Sariputra. The self is simply a name. There is no self that can be ever found. And it cannot be found because it is empty. So it needs a lot of, I intellectually described this one, but it needs a lot of contemplation and meditation. Scientists investigate water, the reality water, as H2O. Likewise, Bodhisattva of great compassion try to investigate what is our reality, what is I, which is the source of all suffering and happiness. When he turned the light inward and illuminated the source, he realized that there is nothing in there, just like this once. So one Zen master said, by viewing the mind as the 4 skandhas, they also cannot find anyone who suffers. Another master says, once someone understands that the skandhas are empty, what does the suffering have to rest on? When bubbles disperse and become water, they are not bubbles. Bubbles represent beings, and water represents our Buddha nature. When we visit a zoo, we see animals are trapped in some cage. They live some unfree, imprisoned life. We also live in some kind of an invisible cage called our ego or our sense of self. But like the discovery of Avalokitesvara of Bodhisattva, which does not exist. It exists in our mind. It exists as a name, not reality. So when we start to see into this empty nature of ourselves, we become freer and freer. Eventually, we become liberated from our suffering and the distress. That's why meditation is very important. And also contemplating this truth. For example, contemplating Heart Sutra, Diamond Sutra, Sattva is a great path to realize that reality. That's why in Buddhism they say, ego is not a sin. It's just a misunderstanding where you are deeply hooked. Since it is a simple misunderstanding, it is not an object of hatred, but an object of investigation. We need to, just like a Zen priest, what is this? We call that mind. What is this? Are you able to? Is that strange? You see me and hear my voice, and your hand doing something else. So comfortably we are doing these multitask. I see, hear you, think something. I'm also doing a lot of tasks at the same time because of the mind. But what is the reality of the mind? What is the this? The quan, what is this? What is the this? So let me finish my talk. Yeah. The Buddha said, seeing the way is like going into a dark room, holding a torch. The darkness is instantly dissipated, while only light remains. When you study the way and see the truth, ignorance vanishes and enlightenment abides forever. Okay, thank you.